Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Ryan. Today we're going to be talking about Thor. You know, he was my first love in Marvel Rivals, and often in between character guides, I'll go back to him and pick up where I left off. And he's been through a lot of changes in recent seasons, some of them not so great to be honest, but this season, we've got some major updates to his kit that have given him new utility, new rotations, and a ton more survivability. These changes have been so impactful that I think they deserve their own video, and hopefully you enjoy the gameplay in the background today, including a 56 kill comp match where we sent the enemy Penny Parker on an absolute rager in the game chat, where he tells me that Thor ruins the fun of the game, which I think is actually a great testament to where Thor is right now in the meta. It was great. So let's dive in. We'll talk about what's different and how that affects your gameplay on Thor. Change number 1. NetEase decided to give Thor anti-flyer capabilities. So he's now one of the best tanks in the game for taking down flying enemies. I think that's something that they picked up on, was the enemy, or like Vanguards in general, have a hard time offering utility to their team when the enemy duelists are predominantly flyers. It takes a lot of Vanguard utility off the board, which is one of the reasons that we saw tank usage drop off in the previous season where we had a lot of flyers. So they made some changes this season. You know, the Thing is now able to ground flyers with his Haymaker Punch, which is great, but his approaches aren't as easy as Thor's, who has his Storm Surge, right, his Hammer Flight to get around and to get into the face of enemy flyers easily. But Thor's Lightning Realm recently received a new effect. This is the lightning bubble that he puts down that charges Thor Force when you catch enemies in it, and it's always applied a slow debuff on targets who leave the bubble. That's why you always throw the Lightning Realm down before you pop your ultimate as Thor, so it's more difficult for people to escape your ult. But the new effect makes it so that enemies who leave the Lightning Realm will get grounded for 2 seconds. So it completely restricts aerial movement for 2 seconds after they leave it. So notice in the gameplay how easily I can knock Iron Man out of the sky. And once he's grounded, he's a pretty easy kill. I ground this Johnny Storm before popping my ultimate, and I'm able to take Storm out of the sky as well. So you'll see plenty of clips in the background gameplay where we are bullying flyers. And if you do this enough times, usually they get so frustrated that they swap off the flyer and onto something else. This Iron Man on Burnin' T'Challa got so frustrated that he ended up swapping to Wolverine so that he could target me specifically, and to no avail. But this change is incredibly useful in a sandbox where flying enemies are extremely common. You know, a lot of matches have some oppressive flying enemy that's just like locking your team down. So as a tank player, I love being able to have an answer to that problem and not always relying on my duelists to handle it. You know, sometimes, if we're being honest, sometimes your DPSers just, they aren't delivering in that capacity. I can't tell you how many times that we've had an enemy flyer that's causing trouble and I see a teammate swap to Hela and still have no ability to take down a good enemy flyer. So to be able to take matters into my own hands as a Thor, that's really helpful as a tank, to have that as an option that's available to you. The next 2 major changes to Thor's kit go hand in hand. So we finally were given the ability to cancel our Rune Awakening state. So this is the state where Thor consumes 3 Thor Force, which is all of them, to go into this state where he can throw lightning bolts for big burst damage. You see tons of that in the gameplay, right? The trade-off was that we couldn't use our hammer dashes in this state, which it makes it a major risk. Okay, so you use it at the wrong time and you would have no ability to fly away from danger or avoid ultimates. You're sort of locked into this lightning throwing state, and good teams would even start to call this out. They'd be like, Thor's in Rune Awakening, which means he can't move. Drop big damage on him. He's locked in, right? Stuff like that. So now we can actually turn it off at any point if we need to revert back to our standard mode and have our mobility again. So that's a really great update. Throw out a couple of lightning bolts, and then if somebody's running away or somebody's getting up in our face, we can just turn it off and go right back to brawling, go back to flying around. But the second major change here is that we now get 1 Thor Force for free upon exiting Rune Awakening. So you cancel Rune Awakening, you come out of Rune Awakening after you've thrown all your lightning bolts, and you have a Thor Force right there, charged up, ready to go. And this is a much bigger deal than I initially thought it would be. And you'll see me leveraging this change a ton in the background gameplay. But we used to have this awkward downtime, right? Coming out of Rune Awakening where we're sort of slow and lumbering and we're waiting on Thor Force to replenish. And if we're not close enough to start bonking people with the hammer, then we just sort of have to wait it out as we recharge. But now we can completely seamlessly go from throwing lightning to flying across the arena for whatever reason, right? To pursue an enemy, to fly to a health pack, to fly back to our back line or regroup with our team, whatever. All these changes basically add up to having a much more fluid Thor experience. So we are eliminating downtime, and that's like taking the governor off of our Thor engine, so to speak, right? No more restrictions on how fast we're allowed to go. Now we can just flow rapidly through our rotations without having to wait on these weird and clumsy downtimes. So hopefully the background gameplay is putting this on full display for you. So notice how little downtime there is. If I see something I want to do, I just go do it. No more clunky waiting on Thor Force. It's just always there when I need it. And if I need an extra charge in the moment, I can always toss that hammer out to deal a little damage and charge a Thor Force in a pinch. Also, having more Storm Surge charges means more opportunities to CC, to kidnap enemy tanks, stuff like that. In a lot of this gameplay, I'm actually yanking Penny Parker way out of position. Okay, I can take her away from her nest, away from her team, and that's Penny's main weakness, is dueling brawlers when she's outside of her nest. She just doesn't pump out near enough damage. So she loses her healing, and she loses a good 75% of her damage output when she doesn't have the spider mines attacking alongside her. So you can imagine how frustrating it is for Penny to spend several seconds carefully placing her nest or her nests and laying mines down in places that she thinks is going to be useful, just for her to get carried away and sent to a respawn timer without getting any utility out of all that setup that she just did. So if this isn't a staple part of your Thor gameplay, you need to incorporate it regularly, okay? Charge your Storm Surge, walk up to a tank, and then look up at an angle towards your team and carry the enemy tank over walls, over obstructions, and get them isolated and out of position. It's so rewarding when you pull this off, but in general, using Storm Surge in the middle of your hammer bonks is a great way to apply tons of pressure to enemies who consistently rely on movement and positioning to win fights. You can and should be like shoving Sue out of her Invisible Woman ult, shoving Cloak and Dagger out of her purple goo as well, to create opportunities for your team to help take them out and negate their ults entirely. At the end of the day, I genuinely think these changes give Thor strong potential in ranked play and in tougher lobbies. I highly recommend you take him for a spin and spend some time with him this season. He's a genuine brawler and a real troublemaker for enemies, and on top of all that, he's just absurdly fun to play because of the nature of his combat being so in your face, so aggressive. So let me know what you think about Thor in this season in the comments below, and also let me know what characters you want me to do full guides on next. If you haven't checked out my Blade guide yet, definitely check that out. I got him to Lord before making the video, and I think he's genuinely a really good character. Even before the buffs, I thought he was really, really good. But I just think people weren't really taking the time to master his cadence before crapping all over him and saying he was bad. It like hurts my soul when I see posts where like, Blade's just a trash player. He's B tier at best. And I'm like, bro, y'all didn't learn his cadence, did you? So give that a watch, and if you get the chance to just play my Spider-Man guide in the background, that would be awesome too. That one was a sponsored video, so I get more cash, I get better deals when sponsored videos perform well. So anytime I do one of those, the support I get in those videos is really, really helpful. So I love you all. You're rock stars. Be warm and well fed, my friends, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Don't mess with the amazing Spider-Man!